first quarter. We're going to then take an opportunity to get your feedback so far on the platform, the usability, anything you want to share with us. And then Roberto is going to go through where is Travel Ledger going. So looking at some new functionality that's coming up beyond Q1. So Travel Ledger Pay and opportunities for you to use a platform beyond ABTA and the SPS that you've known in the past. And then at the end, there will be an opportunity to take questions on that as well. So current functionality. So as you will have seen in the platform so far, it is largely based on the old SPS model, but we have made some improvements and changes to that. You now have the ability to preview and collect files before submission. So whether you're doing that through automated methods or you're uploading manually initially, you'll be able to see if there's any issues with your file. Then there is an area where you can actually, in the upload part, where you can correct those and make any changes before you submit those to your buyers. We also offer the ability to track the life cycle of all bookings beyond a single cycle and during collection. So within the bookings area of the platform, you can see there's a full list of statuses where you can work through your bookings, be them currently under review by buyers, right through to them being complete and collected. So you've got lots of different views that you're able to take on bookings throughout the life cycle. We also provide notifications. So we are providing you with notifications of successful and unsuccessful collections and mandates. And scheduled data exports. So some of you are using this already. Anyone who isn't, then within our settings area in the platform, we do have the task scheduler module. So task scheduler allows you to take some templates that we've pre-configured and set those up so you're able to receive those reports on a regular basis, either by email or FTP, or just having them sat in the module ready for you to run at any time. So we do have those available, and they can, be set up for a Thursday morning, so you can see everything that's happened within that buyer review window. You can get a review of that collection that's going forward on the Thursday. So I do suggest you have a look at those if you haven't already. And we do have some guidance on those in our wiki as well on how to set them up and what you need to do to configure them. But it should be quite straightforward. So Travel Ledger is designed so that all functionality is configurable. Our acceptance and refund logic is specific to the ABTA rules and requirements, but that doesn't mean that that's just how it is. It is tailorable outside of ABTA. So going forward, there's lots we can do to work with you as a business, as opposed to just within the confines of the ABTA setup. Okay, so upcoming functionality, what have we got coming your way in Q1 this year? So we're going to have an enhanced supplier format on the file. So this is going to be optional. It's not something you have to do. The existing file format will still work. But for those of you who wish to submit some extra data, then that is coming into play. So phase 1, we're going to keep the old SPS format. So the format of the file will stay the same. But we will allow a due date and balance deposit indicator to be applied there. So at the moment, the due date is just displaying as the loaded date. But with this, we will allow a due date to be specified. So, if you've got different terms, then that can be applied through the file that you upload. And then phase 2, we're going to move forward with a new CSV format with a very similar structure. This CSV format is going to allow richer data. So it's going to be able to include the capture of VAT, commission calculation, gross net amounts, and any custom fields. So if that's something that you have a requirement for or would like to consider and look into providing, then that's going to be possible over the next quarter. We're going to allow you to the ability to specify payment terms for each buyer. So for example, 30-day credit terms. If you've got any partners where you have an extended credit term, then we'll be able to support that within the platform. So firstly, that can be done, as we mentioned before, by feeding a due date in the file upload. So you'll be able to specify a due date that's specific to your credit terms, which will then feed through to the buyer in the platform and apply to their transactions that you've loaded. So they potentially could have a longer lead date to go with, say, 30 days credit terms, if that's what you had. And also, if that's something that you're not able to apply to the file, it's not going to work with your back office or your system, we could actually configure that separately in Travel Ledger with a due date override elsewhere in the platform. So there's going to be a couple of different ways you can do that to really tailor your payment terms with individual customers. So it won't be a one fits all scenario anymore. You'll be able to tailor that to your particular requirements. We are also making some usability improvements. So this is a big one for us at the moment, and that's currently underway. A few things that are happening with the usability improvements is we're going to have the ability for the buyers to download and upload data directly into their back office. So that will enhance the experience for your buyers and support them further. And we are looking at some of the UI enhancements, which we're currently working on as well, which is the implementation of quick filters. So we've had some feedback so far on some users finding it difficult to find data that is perhaps not what needs reviewing right now. So if you wanted to look at, say, the last collection or previous collections to that, then some people are struggling to access that data. So we are going to put some quick filters in place, which will simplify that, and also some additional columns that are specific to the collection date and the payment date as well. So I know we've just got 2 at the moment, and those are the submission dates. And we're also going to include some data, some columns on bank date as well, to improve your filterability, if that's a word, and also to just be clearer on what's actually submission date versus the bank date. So Simon, did you want to share a screen?
Yeah, go for it. If you let me share, I could probably just I'm going to just overtake. So 1 second.
Yeah, we've got a mock-up to show you of
can you see that?
Some of the changes. Yes.
Great. Okay, so this is hot off the press. We've just finished the initial design work around this, and we intend to introduce these changes hopefully by mid-February. And so we've had a lot of feedback from both buyer and supplier side, and I think overwhelming feedback is the screen was too much information. I know the screen still looks like quite a lot on it, but we've actually reduced a lot. So we're taking out non-essential columns. And as we learn more, we'll adjust more. We've reduced a lot of the spacing padding as such, and reduced space around the headers, because I know a lot of people are working from home and on laptops. And I think some of us in design studios where we have beautiful large screens and it looks great on a big screen, but when you're on a smaller screen, I think it can be very difficult to just see everything you need to see on one screen. So it's going to also sort of fit to a smaller screen now and reshape itself to effectively fit on your screen better. So hopefully that's welcome. And I think one of the other key things we're getting from both sides of the supply chain is, how do I see what's in flow, and how do I see what happened, what did I collect last week from my buyers, what's coming in. So we've introduced a thing called quick filters, as Michaela mentioned. And effectively, you'll be able to select one of 3 options right now. That's our first pass on this. This could be a richer functionality in the future, but right now you'll be able to say, I want to see last week's collections, or I want to see what's currently in flow, or as Michaela said, we've got the option to now have credit terms up to 30 days. You could just click on future and see everything that's in flow that you've loaded into the system. So that's coming in soon. In terms of filters, and when you click on those, they'll have nice tick buttons next to them. And if you do have a filter applied on something, then the screen will just, the column header will just highlight that you've actually filtered on that particular column. So that's just a very quick view on where we're taking the platform. We certainly welcome any feedback you give us. It really shapes the platform for us. So if there's anything on here that you don't like, I've just shown you, and I know it's a very quick display of what's coming, please write to us and let us know, and it'll help shape us to get this platform to work for you as best as you need it to work. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and pass back to you, Michaela. I think, is there anything else I should be mentioning on that screen, Michaela? You're on mute at the moment.
Sorry, I was having a good sneeze before, sorry. Yes, so I think we've got the hide actions button as well, which is going to be handy, and then the little information icons.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to provide support if someone's unsure on what a column actually means and what information is delivered in there. Then there's going to be little information icons where we feel that they offer that support. So maybe not under by a name, but under settlement status, there'll be a better definition of what each status means.
Yeah, great, thanks. And I think just adding to that, so the hide action is more for buyers. So essentially, I think what's happening is there's a bit of confusion sometimes for a buyer to know whether they've actually accepted or not. So if they click that button, then as they action things, it'll just disappear off their screen. It'll just filter them out. And what we've done is also said we've reduced the column widths, so more fits on. But I don't think everyone also is aware either that you can actually just amend your columns by clicking on the columns button here and unselect things you don't need to see. So even though we're going to add a couple of extra columns and things, it's probably more useful for you as an operator. Maybe as a buyer you don't need to see it, or maybe there's things that you as an operator you don't need to see. Just click on this column thing and unselect things you don't need to see, just to make the screen show what you need it to see. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'll pass back to you, Michaela.
Thank you. Okay. So that wraps up what I wanted to go through in terms of the current functionality and the upcoming functionality within Q1. We wanted to take a bit of time now really to open the floor to you as the sellers and get your feedback on the usability of the platform so far, and potentially on that upcoming functionality in Q1. If you've got anything you want to share with us on that, then that's also much appreciated.
If you also wanted to type in feedback, then just use the chat function, and we can answer you there as well. Okay, shall we carry on? And anybody got any questions as we go, just pop them in the chat, and then we can talk about them at the end as well if we need to.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to hand over to Roberto now, who's going to go through beyond Q1, where Travel Ledger is heading. Are you there, Roberto? Oh, here he is.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, apologies. I had to move. There was too much background noise. I had to move position. So what I was going to say is, well, first of all, thank you very much for everyone for coming today. Feel free to ask any questions as we go through. As we said at the beginning, we just wanted to start to get a little bit of feedback, but also give you a bit of a view as to where things are going, and reiterate the fact that, yes, we have taken over ABTA's SPS platform, but Travel Ledger is that there's a lot more to Travel Ledger. Our plans are to expand considerably beyond Travel Ledger. So we've seen, even from a buyer perspective, the tendency to think that, oh, this is how it was working before with this, so this is how Travel Ledger is going to work forever, and those are the limitations of it. Obviously that is not the case. And through some of these sessions, we want to start to share with you, where the direction of travel that we're taking with the platform. First of all, we want to work with everyone, obviously in partnership, but we recognize the relationship with yourselves as the suppliers, the sellers, is obviously key in order to move everything forward. So one of the things that we want to do is we want to give more control to the suppliers. Within the current context, ABTA performs a lot of the background configuration and sets a lot of the rules. But going forward, we want to expand the network and allow suppliers to also operate with different rules, as we already mentioned, the fact of being able to override the due dates, so you can have the platform manage multiple credit agreements that you might have, introduce new payment schedule, new rules. So in general, we're going towards our direction is to give you more control and more opportunities through the platform. And one of the key ones, the fact that any travel company will be able to participate on Travel Ledger. So now this first phase is obviously being about migrating over all of the ABTA members. We are in advanced conversations with Advantage as well. So Advantage is going to come on board, but also we're going to introduce more payment options, and we're looking at expanding the network. So what do we mean expanding the network? Is give you the opportunity to actually invite additional partners that you might be doing business with. And there are a couple of different, and that will be done by invitation only. So suppliers will be able to invite their partners, and you can, first of all, obviously invite other ABTA companies that might not have used Get on Travel Ledger, maybe because they didn't use SPS before. In some cases, we've learned some companies, some buyers were not using SPS because of the inability to manage credit facilities. So customer buyers that had 30-day credits were not on the platform. So now, if there is somebody that you can think of that, we never used it with them and we could bring them on board now, obviously go ahead and invite. You will be able to invite them, but also you will be able to invite any UK travel company. So towards the end of Q1, early Q2, as we introduce new payment options, you will be able to invite other companies as well. So that gives you the ability, obviously, to increase the scope and connect with new partners, because you might also see companies, buyers on Ledger that you haven't done business with before, and that could give you an opportunity also to start working with them. Ultimately, we want to get to the point where you can manage and configure the platform to do business and to support the business the way you do business. Travel Ledger shouldn't really be dictating any the way that you work with your partners. We want to give you that flexibility. One of the things that we're introducing to that regard is the whole concept of additional payment methods. Some of you might be aware already that ABTA is already planning to, at some point in 2022, to change the way that the settlement is done, in terms of that the money is not going to necessarily go through their payment facility, through their bank accounts. We will formally announce and communicate that to you well in advance of that happening. But basically, what's happening is that from the current kind of environment that is only backs, only direct debits, only GBP. In the towards Q2, we're going to move to what we call more officially Travel Pay. So Travel Ledger Pay is basically a digital wallet where on the platform, every company participating will basically have their nominated bank account. So literally it will operate exactly like a bank account where every company will have individual sort code, account number, IBAN. So it holds funds and operates exactly like a bank account where you can transfer from and to, like you do with a normal bank account. And that is the first kind of step towards also connect additional payment rails. So as I said, in addition to backs and direct debit, we'll introduce fast pay, and then also connecting to SEPA, the digital platform, the Travel Ledger Pay will be connected to the euro as well. So those of you that operate in other countries be able to also process payments in other areas. In fact, you will see that the Travel Ledger Pay facility with the digital wallets, with the Travel Ledger Pay accounts, the way we're going to call them, is actually going to be introduced first in Ireland. So we will first market, and then after that, we'll then roll it into the UK. So everything is going to be done in a kind of stepped fashion, obviously. But the idea is for Travel Ledger to kind of expand beyond the UK and give us some global reach. So throughout Q2, as I said, we will extending participate in the UK market. And after the summer, we're even looking kind of beyond the euro. The business partner, the banking partners that we're working with give us the ability to add additional currencies and do business in a number of different markets. And as part of that expansion, obviously, we want to encourage all the companies that do operate internationally to work together with us, not just to kind of expand beyond just the ABTA network. And as we do that, we will also start to introduce incentives for the suppliers in order to participate more in Travel Ledger, kind of beyond the current network. And so in order to do that, we'll be offering incentives based on information loaded, so that the more transaction suppliers load, actually there will be some discounts that will start to kick in. So we have additional functionality as well that we're planning for the UK markets. There's a lot of talk in the market at the moment around, obviously, trust accounts, escrow accounts, being able to exchange richer data, things like that, which we'll be exploring, towards the end of the year. But in, let's say, the medium term, what we outlined today are some of the things that are already in the works, and that we know they're coming between now and, let's say, the summer and after the summer. So the reason for discussing this is obviously to make you aware, to see if you have any questions specifically on some of these things, and also I would say for us to gauge, what is the level of interest. If you are interested in expanding, obviously using Travel Ledger beyond the current kind of reach, either in the UK or in Europe or in other markets, please get in touch primarily with myself and Simon, let us know. And, we want to work with you. We want to understand what kind of requirements you might have. And that even with the current functionality, some of these sessions, we just want to learn, what do you like about the system? What don't you like? What would you like that maybe we're not doing at all? We're hoping that we can have an ongoing relationship and an ongoing line of communication, so that we can develop this facility in the best possible way going forward. So I don't know if I saw a couple of questions pop up. I don't know if there's any other, feel free to unmute yourself and and ask questions or make comments, or we can go back to feedback. We have a little bit more time to cover any other topic that you might be interested in covering. So let me see. Yes, the comment about, as you know, we basically, to incentivize participation, we've now put an incentive in place that as long as the buyers do what they're supposed to do through the platform, we're waiving their monthly subscriptions. So their charges are reduced pretty much to nothing, and it will be the same for the rest of the year. So again, in this initial phase is, obviously adoption is what is important. Any other suggestions that you might have, where you could say, oh, maybe if we could do this, or to encourage adoption, it's very important for us. Obviously, during this kind of change phase, everybody's trying to get used to the new functionality and things. So we want to make it as easy as possible for people, and make sure they have the most reasons to kind of stick with it.
A couple more questions come in. So one of the questions is around using the platform on a laptop, and we've absolutely got that feedback that there's a lot of information to squeeze onto a small laptop. So the designs that we are bringing in mid-February will conform to your screen size. So it'll reduce the grid, bring it into one window, so you're not having to scroll left and right, up and down to try and see what you need to see. We're also going to not show columns that are not as important. So you can always bring the columns in if you want to see them, but I think ultimately there's a vast amount of information we can show you on the platform, and you may not always need to see that information. So our goal right now is to reduce to the absolute minimum information you need. And if you need to see more, then you just click buttons to enable more information. Another question that came in, so as you said, Roberta, was around the fees. So we've reduced those. And I think the other thing is, as more and more suppliers come onto the platform, and we've got a big drive to obviously get as many suppliers on the platform as possible, we've got a single place there for your buyers to go and deal with all their invoices. So it should be to their benefits to come onto the platform. And I think one of the other things, I haven't seen the question yet, but I know that we saw certainly in the early days, not enough adoption on going in and accepting transactions. And I think our acceptance rate was around about 30–40%, or just actioning, should I say. And a lot of them were getting voided. So I've seen that go right up over the last few weeks, that the curve on buyers going in and actioning their invoices is shot right up. But we are also bringing in functionality that will send reminders with specific information of what you need to action to the buyers. So that's coming up very soon, which will also help just making sure that they go in, they get a reminder, yeah, you have these, you need to go and action them. So I see some more questions have come in. So let me just read those quickly.
Yeah, there's a question about Advantage.
Right, yeah.
So first of all, we'll definitely pass your thanks to Vanetta.
Absolutely.
She'll be very happy to hear that. Also, yeah, for Advantage, we're looking at the end of Q1. That's the current discussions that we're having with them. They're we're in the planning phase, so end of Q1 they'll come on board as well. And the other question is a Travel Ledger TSP, the ABTA schedule. I think we'll skip Easter. They haven't. I'm not sure they've given us the schedule yet, but I think there will be 1 week. I know that normally they do that. So it's down to Advantage to ABTA actually to configure that. I think they will, but obviously that question is probably more appropriate for them. I don't know, Simon.
Well, I think so. Just to explain some of the logic why we don't run collections over Christmas. That's an ABTA stipulation. It's not us. And the reason they do that is because when all the money is collected in, they go in and do a reconciliation, and then they agree it, and then they disperse the funds to all the creditors. And they're not around, obviously, during that week between Christmas and New Year's. So there's no one to do that. Therefore, they block or they stop any collection happening that week. So I need to agree the dates with Easter. I haven't quite seen, I haven't looked at my public holidays yet to see what days they fall on. We've got the Queen's Jubilee as well, haven't we, this year? So I think we need to agree those with ABTA. And they should be in. I don't think we'll have an extreme lockdown like we did over Christmas. So we should be able to continue the collections over those bank holidays. I don't see why we shouldn't. What might happen is the buyer review window will be shortened by a day, but we had that last year, August, albeit on a smaller community, and that worked fine. The system handled that. So hopefully you continue to submit and collect over those holiday periods.
I have one question for the audience, kind of in general, is are you comfortable with the functionality overall? Do you think that would you like to have a workshop maybe to focus on functionality? I mean, obviously today we spoke in general. Are workshops that focus on system functionality useful for you, or do you prefer kind of general sessions like this one? I can see, you say yes on functionality, yes, please. Then yeah, please feel free to suggest areas of maybe that you would like to expand on. I don't know if you want us to cover things like automation, exports, getting data out, things like that. So and yes, of course, we can do regular workshops like this. As I said, we want to continue to keep this line of communication as open as possible. Again, feel free to suggest topics going forward if there's anything in particular you want us to look at and cover.
We sent out a survey. I can't remember. Did that just go to buyers? I think we did, didn't it? Or to go to sellers as well?
No, it was buyer specific.
Great. Okay, so we've got a lot of good feedback on that, and as I said, a lot of it was, can we make the screen simpler, which we're working on. When we sent out the same to this community on this call, if we could send you a survey and if you could give us as much feedback as possible, that'll help shape workshops as well, and then we can choose specific topics, and we'll set up further webinars. We'll make these regular and delve into things that are going to make your world easier and automate as much as your world as possible, which is what our goal and drive is. So it'd be good to get that feedback from you.
Okay. Unless there's any other question, I think we can kind of go towards a close. As a general reminder, as I said, because we're starting to plan for that now, and we're looking at specific markets. If you're interested in expanding your network, as I said, in the UK or in other markets, or if you have any specific requirement, it would be great for you to start to come and talk to us now. And if it's not you directly that need to do that, please feel free to pass the invitation to some of your colleagues in the commercial team or anything like that. This is a good time to start talking to us for the activity that we'll do in Q2 and Q3 this year. So that's why, as I said, we wanted you to be aware of some of these things that we're doing. So I look forward to hear from you, hopefully. So unless there's anything else, thank you very much for today, and we'll talk to you soon again.
Thanks all. Speak soon. Bye-bye.